Hey folks, so here's what we're going to do today. First, I want you to head back over to the PDF of the Pause reading that you read for homework and just skim your peers' comments that maybe you hadn't seen before and the responses that your peers made to that comment. And then just kind of like let that percolate, just hold on to it. We're going to return to that later, but I think it's just kind of nice to have that information in your head for the next thing that we're going to do. So just take about 10 minutes to do that, and that should be enough, I think. And then what you're going to do is you are going to head on to task 2. So we're actually, remember that I have designed this class to be an immersive experience. What do I mean by that? So let me tell you about Baby GPAT. Back when I was like learning queer theory and any other kind of theory, frankly, but especially queer theory, I would always be like, man, like this is like a cool analysis, but I have like absolutely no idea like what they're talking about, because like maybe they were talking about analyzing a book that I hadn't read or a film I hadn't watched, or like, you know, I guess the coloring book is not that hard, but the idea here is that an immersive experience basically says, okay, like we're reading this piece, but we're also going to like deeply engage with whatever it is that they're talking about, or something deeply related to whatever they're talking about, so that we can completely understand like the analysis that they're making, right? Because we've kind of experienced it ourselves. And I find that that is going to help us more deeply engage with what we've read, and then to have like really cool applications, right, that are going to deepen our experience of that piece. So just sort of know that even though these things seem like diversions, they're actually meant to help you engage in an embodied way with whatever it is that we're reading. Okay, so in task 2, Pause actually is analyzing a coloring book that was created by a non-binary artist, Theo Nicole Lorenz. And Nicole Lorenz Theo Nicole Lorenz uses they, them pronouns. So I went to their website, and the first thing that I want you to do is just kind of go to their website and like, you know, read their about page. I've linked to that. I also want you to like check out their art page, and then also just kind of check out like their coloring books, right? So the reason, so that's the first thing, just like spend, you know, 10 minutes or so checking out their stuff, right? Because it's kind of righteous and awesome. And then I want you to, I don't know why this says check back in with the next thing we're going to do is we're going to color. Okay. So we're just going to vibe with this article by actually, we're going to basically vibe with Pause's article by actually having the experience of coloring in one of Lorenz's coloring books. So there are 2 that I downloaded from their website. One is Aggressive Self-Care and the other is Trans Affirmation Coloring Book. Now, the reason why the Fat Ladies in Space one isn't one of the ones that I chose is because it's not a digital coloring book. I'm really sad about that. I was really kind of hoping it would be there so we could color in that one. But alas and alack. So I bought these 2 digital coloring books, and you'll see that both of these links will open up a PDF of a coloring book. All right. So what I want, there you have 3 options for engaging in the second task. And so just sort of keep in mind that any of these things are going to be fine and perfectly lovely. Okay. So I'm just going to go through those options. If you have a printer, what I want you to do is to choose an image or 2 from Lorenz's coloring book and print it out and color it. Just spend 30 or 40 minutes coloring it. If you are someone who has a tablet, you could also just open up one of those PDFs and then, you know, use your stylus or whatever to just color that way, right? Because that could be fun. The other thing that you can do, and I'm just saying this as someone like, this is probably what I would end up doing because frankly, printing things out in my house is like a giant pain in the tuchus. So, you know, just sort of know that. If you don't have a printer, that is totally fine. What I want you to do is just to go ahead and just like look through both of Lorenz's coloring books, and then just kind of like create a drawing about like it kind of reflects on your experience looking at Lorenz's books, and or you could even just like create a drawing that, or a series of drawings that you wish were included in there, right? So like in one of the coloring books, right? So just sort of keep in mind that you can do any of those things. If there's another workaround that you want to do that's sort of related to that, you can totally message me and we'll work it out. But just sort of know that like I realize that not everyone has access to a printer or a tablet, like obviously. And like I have access to a printer and I don't even know if I have ink, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I get it, right? But I just still want to create an experiential learning moment, or as I like to call it, an immersive moment where we're, kind of vibing with the queer theory article that we read. Okay, so you're going to color for 30 and 40 or 40 minutes or draw, and just kind of chill, put on some music, color, draw. And then towards the end of class, so after like 30 or 40 minutes, you're going to just take a moment and you're going to just kind of write down like 3 to 4 sentences, just like a reflection about how the experience of engaging with Lorenz's coloring books actually maybe enhanced your engagement with the Passe article, or that there's a very particular piece of that article that like was really popping in your head as you were coloring, and just kind of talk about that, right? And then you are going to head over to the Unit 1B coloring book channel, and I want you to take a photo or a screenshot of whatever you drew or colored and upload that to Slack alongside your 3 to 4 sentence reflection. And then I want you to read and respond to at least 2 of your peers' posts. Again, like meaningfully engage, right? Don't just be like, oh, I agree, but be like, hey, yeah, like you mentioned this. And my experience was this particular thing that you're mentioning here like reminds me of this other part in Passe's article, right? So sort of keep that in mind. That's what we're going to be doing in class. And then for homework, you are going to be reading excerpts of this really amazing book called Care Work. This book is written by a queer person of color who is disabled, and who is basically talking about disability justice. And so you're going to read some excerpts from that, and then you're going to employ the active reading model, again, to collaboratively annotate and discuss the article with your peers, right? And so just sort of keep in mind again that the reason why we are like reading and annotating these together is so that like we're doing homework, but we're also kind of like having we're like pre-gaming the conversation that we're having in class. And that is cool because it takes a lot of pressure off of us, so that we're like, cool, we're getting like this double dipped experience of talking about whatever it is that we are engaging with. So you're going to read Care Work, part of it, not the whole book. And then we are going to do that active reading model. So the same notes are here for you. Just sort of keep that in mind. Yeah, and then that is really about it. I did want to sort of mention that, just to give you a heads up, that's what we're doing for homework. And a lot of the conversation initially that we're going to be having about Care Work is going to be happening in that Google Drive document. And the reason for that is because we are going to be sort of, again, doing an immersive experience and talking about some of the things that are mentioned in and around that Care Work excerpt. And one of those things is this documentary on Netflix called Crip Camp. And so week 3 in class, I'm going to be screening Crip Camp on Zoom. Now, if you have access to Netflix and you're like, man, I'm an introvert, I'm not trying to hang out with you, GPAT. I feel that. And like, you totally don't have to, right? But I'm going to host a screening on Zoom, and there's gonna be a little chat thing open. But we're just gonna like watch it together. And that's basically what's gonna happen. And then, basically for homework, you are going to post a reflection, right? So just sort of know that next week it's going to be a little bit different in the sense that you'll have read that article, but then you're spending the days in class engaging with like a primary source and then reflecting for homework. All right, so just sort of keep that in mind. It's just like a heads up. Again, Camp Crip is on, oh, it's Crip Camp. See, I am like legitimately dyslexic and I just did that wrong, but I'll fix that. The point is, we're engaging with that next week. If you have access to Netflix, you can totally watch it on your own, or you can hop on Zoom and join us. You do not have to be on camera. In fact, you're going to notice that I'm going to have disabled both your mic and the video component, and that's to save on bandwidth. So if you are someone who is like feeling a little self-conscious, don't worry, because no one is going to see you. Okay, so I just know that some folks are video adverse. So just sort of know that that is something that is coming up for the third week, and I thought it might be nice to give you a heads up about that. Okay, cool.